you want to see that clearance of the 335s, there it is. That's with very minimal hammering. I barely even did anything on this side.
Marky said Marcus, you ripped my car apart. He said he can't guarantee the wheel alignment unless he drives it, so. So oddly, this side's lower now that we did the wheel alignment. And this side is a little bit higher. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna adjust the ride height a little bit. I'm gonna raise the other side up to match this side now. That's how off my wheel alignment was, I guess. It was off so much that this side was sitting higher than what it was really supposed to sit. But yeah, the ride height looks good all the way around. But I'm gonna go ahead and raise it up anyway a little bit. It won't throw off the alignment because it's not a big adjustment. But we're gonna go take the car for a ride now. And then if all is good, I'll let you guys know exactly what I did to get these 335s to clear, and we'll go from there. Okay, so hopefully this is the last test to know for sure that it doesn't rub. I'm gonna take a couple turns. I guess I'm gonna use that to see if it rubs on the driver's side. Alright, so finally back at the house, and I can talk to you guys a little bit more about the setup. So it's 285/35 up front and an 18x10, and a 335/30 on an 18x12 in the rear. With the rear, we had to go with a plus 49, which is a little bit lower than standard Supra offset, but the wheel does actually have more back spacing just because it is a wider wheel. So offset obviously goes by the mounting pad, how close or far it is from the center of the wheel, and your back space is from the mounting pad all the way to the inner lip of the wheel. So they both tell you the same story, but they both change depending on wheel width. So that's what it's looking like right there. This is the ride height that I'm going to keep. It's got very minimal camber. It's actually adjusted all the way out. I have maybe 1.2 degrees of camber in the rear. It's like 1.19 on this side and 1.23 or 24 on the other side. So we try to pull as much camber out of it as we could to get the most out of the 335 tires when it comes to straight line performance. The fronts are 285, and I believe the camber is 1.5 and 1.5 or so in the front. It's a little bit more aggressive than stock, but not much. We did have an issue with this wheel. I do have to check out one of my cam washers underneath because it was giving us a hard time. But other than that, the car does track straight and it feels fine. The only thing I dislike about this setup is the fact that I went with a 285/30 up front. Plenty of people told me I would rub if I went with a 285/30 or a 275/35 because I did run a lower offset on this than standard Supra fitment. But I actually don't rub at all on the front, and my coilover is all the way down. The front is a little bit lower than what I wanted, and that's just because, like I said, I have the 285/30s. If I went with a 285/35, I believe the sidewall height would have been very close to the rears, and I think it would look better. It would have gave me less wheel gap, and it would have raised the front of the car up a little bit. So I really wish I went that route. But yeah, that's what she looks like now. I just wanted to show you guys what a Supra, stock body, a little bit of fender work, inner fender work as well. I just want to show you guys what it looks like. 315 is definitely the way to go. 305 or 315 is definitely the way to go just because it fits. You shave that lip down or roll it in, and you're done. You're completely done. You can go out and enjoy your car. Me, I did all that work, and don't get me wrong, the car looks great, looks meaty, looks really aggressive, but it's just way too much work for a car that's independent rear suspension that has camber. You're not always going to use the whole tire, so it's, you know, unless you're cornering, you're not going to get the full benefit of a 335. I think it looks cool. I think it's different, and it looks mean in pictures. So, what is going on, guys? If you watched my last video when I bought the wheels, I had discussed going with 305 35 tires on my new CCW D110s, but I kind of went another direction. I went 335 3018. It is a little bit aggressive for stock fenders. You can see there's a little bit of poke right there, and looking from the rear, there's a little bit of poke. Now, that's not the end of the world because the fender is not flared at all, and I think what hurts, and this is my opinion, I think what hurts the look of it is a lot of cars you can have a slight tire poke and it looks clean, but that's usually when you have a roll and a slight flare to where even if the tire pokes out past it, it kind of flows, whereas the Supra, it comes out and then it just drops off. So when you put a tire that sticks out, it drops off and then it pops back out again. It doesn't flow. So my plan today is to get this to flare out just a little bit. I know it's not going to cover the entire width of the tire, that's obvious, but if I can flare out enough to where it covers, like it gives it a nice flow, I think it'll look great, and it'll also keep it from rubbing, because you can see right here it was rubbing, and not a lot. Honestly, it only rubbed backing out of the driveway. With the taller tires though, you will have more rubbing, like right here and back here. You can see right there this piece of plastic. That's obviously from my old set of wheels, because if these were touching here, it'd be rubbing all of this because it sticks out that far. The old ones sat in further, so they were rubbing right here when the car squatted. So since then, I've adjusted dampening on all four corners. I stiffened it up, and it's still rubbing a little bit. So now my next option is to, like I said, get a little bit more roll on this fender. I did shave the inside of it, so you can see it's pretty thin. But now I'm gonna, like I said, do my best to try and flare it out just a little bit. All right, so we got the car in the air, obviously. The fender roller bolted up to the hub. All right, now that's all mounted up. Put this parking brake down. And you should be able to roll it back and forth. Okay, so I lied. Big car is jacked up in the air and the wheel hangs. The tire makes contact on the backside. So I gotta take this wheel off so I can spin the other side. Now we should be able to rotate it back and forth. There we go. So essentially, once you have it all tightened up, you're gonna do this back and forth. But we also have to add heat to this because it is a little cold outside. But even if it wasn't, you want the paint and the metal to be nice and hot. That way the metal will flex a little bit easier, and the paint is a lot less likely to crack when it's a lot hotter also. Alright, so after rolling back and forth for what felt like 1,000 hours, we got a little bit more pull out of it. I don't want to go too crazy. I'd rather do a little bit test fit, do a little bit more if I need to, and then test fit again instead of going crazy. Some of the undercoating that I put in here did chip away or peel off, but that's all good. We can put some more of that on. And you can see right here, this is where I had to hammer in. This side actually has pretty good clearance. I don't think I'll need to do anything else because you can see none of the other undercoating right here has been touched or rubbed by the wheel. And if you look at the inside of the wheel, like nothing rubbed. So this tire is good. And let's go check the other side real quick, since the other side I did a lot less hammering. And not a lot of light here, but you can see this side didn't rub either. Looks pretty good, and I did very minimal hammering on that side. Alright, so we got this wheel on, everything together on this side, and back on the ground. This side as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and back the car out. I did raise the side up a little bit to see if it'll level it out. So I'm gonna back the car down, let the suspension settle, pull out the driveway, and go for a quick ride and see if it rubs. But I think it looks a little bit better. It starts to get wider around here, and it stays that same width to right about here, and it starts to go back in slightly. So surprisingly, it actually did make a good difference. Still has a little bit of poke, obviously. Like I said, we're not gonna get rid of that, but it flows a lot better now. This is the side I raised up a little bit, but this side always looked decent. I do like the way this one looks. It was catching right here, but I pushed that in a little bit, and Hopefully it doesn't catch now. But I'm going to go ahead and try to back it out the driveway, see where it rubs. So it might not look like much, but there's a small lip there, and that's the lip I want to make flush. This lip right here, it's not much. We're talking about a few millimeters. But if that's that much more, like if it's just a few millimeters more of clearance so it doesn't really rub into the tire, then that's good for me. That, along with raising this up. Now, like I said, we're talking about very minimal differences here, but hopefully it'll just give me just enough of what I need to get this to clear without rubbing. Oh, and also, like I said, you can see that it didn't rub at all. That mark right there, that's from when I banged it in. Very minimal. I did bang up a little bit here too, but this is actually really soft. So if you hit this, don't go crazy with it. You know, start off with light taps and then you'll see it start to move. This is the only area that you actually have to hit pretty hard. And that's an actual thick, you know, that's a thick chunk of metal right there. Whereas up here, it's a lot thinner. So definitely be careful with that. Also, you can see right here that this is about 8 millimeters thick. It's probably a little bit thicker, but I don't want to put it up against the paint. So if we take off 3-4 millimeters, if that's what it takes to even it out. Let me see if I can actually get a reading in here. Yeah, so 3 millimeters is about the thickness of that lip on the bottom. So if we can get, it's 3.4, if we can get 3 millimeters out of it and leave just a little bit, you know, like I said, it doesn't sound like much, but it could be the difference that we need. And anything to keep from cutting into the tire. Not that it really is, but just to be safe. Alright, so you can see right here, there's nothing right there. It's almost completely smooth. Still a really small lip there, so I'm gonna go over this one again, very lightly though. This is like perfect, and you can see I tried to like smooth it back in. So just gonna go over that with the file. I don't need to really do anything else back here. I'm gonna go, like I said, I'm gonna go over with the file, smooth it back out, so it's not like a hard curve. It'll be a smoother transition, and then same thing up here. Finish this. It's definitely a little bit smaller. See what we got now. So before we were at about 8 millimeters. Let's go back to 8 where we were. And look at that. Look at that. How much we took off already. We're down to 6. And in the thinnest spot, we're down to 5. So yeah, like I said, 3 millimeters is what we would have taken off, and it was at about 8 or 9. So 5, that's 3 millimeters that we took off on that. So if I can match it right here, up to about right here, this whole section, we're good. And go ahead and get this section done, and then we should be good. I had to be careful up here though, because it started to touch. Now this is like an inner shell. It's not the actual quarter, but you still don't want to tear it up. And I'm still gonna have to go over that with undercoating now. But yeah, so we got a little bit more to go, and then we should be good. Okay, so I think this is where we're going to stop. And the reason I'm gonna leave it there is because you can see this lip is very thin, but I still have to prime and undercoat the inside of it. Well, right there on the very edge, I'm gonna have to do that as well, just because that's the end of the material. That's the end of the metal that's painted on the car now. So scuff it, etch it, and paint it with undercoating. So there'll be a very thin layer of undercoating right here, which is fine. You won't see that at all from the side or the top. But if I keep going to where there's no edge, and the edge is the outside of the car, then it's almost going to be impossible to have the undercoating cover every piece of exposed metal without it being visible from the outside. So like I said, I'm going to stop it here, and we're going to make that adjustment on the coil, and hopefully that's good. Okay, so I can finally say we are rub free on that passenger side. I do think that it's still sitting a little bit lower. Well, it actually is. I mean, I don't know how much more I want to bring it up, but it is sitting lower than that side, but it's not rubbing at all. So now I'm halfway tempted to match this side, since I'm not going to have my slicks on for a while, just because I actually sold my CCW drag pack. I don't know if I said that, but I sold a CCW drag pack, so I'm not going to be running a drag pack for a while, at least not for the rest of this year. Overall, I'm just super happy with the way the car looks, with the way the car rides, and the fact that I can get in and out of the driveway without rubbing. 335, boys, 335. Boys and girls, whoever's watching. God, that looks real good. But that's gonna wrap this video. Please like, comment, subscribe, especially if this video helped you out or you just want to see more Supra content, truck content, or any other content with car related. But until next time, take care, guys.